Hello and welcome into the RotoWire Esports Show. My name is Andrew Laird, joined as always by Ethan Sexton. This time to talk about Sunday's four-game LPL LCK slate. We get a little bit of a break, unfortunately, with LCK not doing Monday, Tuesday, so we're going to go back to our two-game slates. So we need to appreciate this one until at least Wednesday. But Ethan, we had our first subs, I think. I think they were the first ones. I joked around in our Discord when somebody asked what happened to Trigger today when he got subbed. But I was saying if there has been a sub so far, it's on a team that I didn't have, so I didn't care. But is this something we're going to have to start thinking about?
Yeah, a little bit at least. Usually the scary thing is, like, especially for the LCK teams, getting the starters right. And then even if you get the starters right, there could be a sub, So obviously, like today with Trigger there and V5 being the biggest favorites on the slate, obviously, you weren't very happy if you played Trigger and then they end up getting stomped in game one by LGD and he subs out and then they reverse sweep, but you're not getting anything from him because he's already out. So it always should be, in the back of people's minds a little bit anyway, because you always run that risk, even like today with the biggest favorite. I mean, if they lose a game, they might switch something up, if they didn't like what they saw from their starters. So it is always definitely, a cause for concern or something we have to consider for, not for every team, but for, some teams that they might make in-series lineup adjustments.
Yeah, 80 carry for the biggest favorite on the slate to get subbed is quite a way to just kill a lot of lineups.
Yeah, that was a tough one for people who played V5.
Yeah. So we got, like I said, 4 games for the Sunday slate. Damwon are, I believe, the biggest favorite we've had since we started podcasting. If they're not the biggest, they're like second biggest. They have an implied win total just below 92%.
Yeah, jeez.
Which is high. So obviously we can expect a lot of people to go there. LNG is next after they had a pretty good result in their first game. Obviously, they're both very expensive. Do you think people basically split going each, either LNG or DWG, or do you think one is kind of much more popular than the other?
If it, the way I would lean, I would think that Damwon is probably the most popular team on the slate, just because they're the defending world champions. They won their first series against T1, who are probably the other team that's going to be looking to fight for the LCK title here in this split. And they're going up against a team in NS Red Force, who's not. I don't think they're like an awful team, but Damwon deserve to be the biggest favorites just based on reputation, but. Sure. I wonder if they pay off their lofty salaries. Like, NS Red Forces. From what we've seen so far, I would say they're a better team than who LNG are playing in TT. TT just looked miserable in their first series. And I think I said on when we talked about their first series that they have a couple players that look exciting. Like Sam D was good last year on V5, and they have a couple younger players who. From everything I've seen, are up-and-comers who look like they have some upside, but right now the team just looks like it's not in a cohesive place, and they just kind of looked like they were chickens with their heads cut off a little bit in their first series. So, I think LNG are playing the worst team, but it's like, kind of tough where you want to go because while LNG are playing the worst team, LNG are also a worse team than Damwon, so it's kind of like a pick your poison situation.
Sure.
I would expect both of those big favorites to win, but who knows? We've seen a lot of upsets already, and it's been a crazy first week, so anything could happen. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna guess that Damwon are the most popular, just based off reputation.
Okay. It's pretty much impossible to pair 2 favorites on the slate. The next, we have Africa and Invictus Gaming are the next 2. IG, like, slight favorites ahead of WE. That should be, like, my guess is that based on what we've seen from this season, that WE might be the most popular underdog that people focus on.
Yeah, I think so, and I think for good reason. I mean, they're definitely the best underdog team on this slate. And IG, although IG looked great in their first series, and then they looked awful against LNG when they got swept.
Yeah.
And that's how they were last year. They were just this big coin flip team. Like, they have a really solid lineup. I think. Like, I'm always high on Rookie, and I'm always high on the Shy. But the concern with the Shy is the concern with the team. It's like which version shows up on a given day. So LNG are certainly risky. I like World Elite or WE in that matchup, just because they're priced as underdogs, and I really think that they're a really. I like their lineup a lot. I think they're a great team, and I think they're a more consistent team than IG. But with the caveat of knowing that if IG show up, it could be a 2-0 stomp. So that's a tough one to predict a little bit, but I'm leaning towards WE there. And to your point, I mean, they're definitely the best underdog on the slate, the best team that's an underdog on this slate. The other three underdogs really are uninspiring, especially TT and Breon there. The interesting thing about that Breon Afrika series, though, is that Afrika really don't do it for me either. So,
right.
I mean, a team like Breon, I mean, maybe they're the lowest owned team on the slate other than NS Red Force. Although, I think some people go to NS Red Force in multi-entry if they're going for first place for the leverage opportunity.
For sure.
But, man, I don't know. Like, between Breon and TT, who's going to be lower owned, I'm not sure. But man, it wouldn't surprise me if this Breon team won, because I really don't like Afrika at all. Like, I'm not looking at Afrika at all when I'm building lineups, and maybe that's going to end up being a mistake. But I just think they looked awful, and I think, I do think Keen is a good player in the top lane, but man, Fly and Bang just looked past it and pretty washed, and I'm just not sure they're really going to do much of anything this year as a team. So potential underdog upset there, but yeah, I'm pretty much looking at WE as the underdog pick of the day, which I think will be pretty popular for most people if they're looking for underdogs.
Calling people washed is one of my favorite terms. I'm not going to lie. Given that, I mean, it probably doesn't matter because you can fit them anyway. But if there is any hesitation on Damwon and people just go to LNG, like, I wonder, as weird as it sounds, I wonder if WE ends up being the highest owned team on the slate. Because, like, any favorite you go with, you can just pair them with WE and that's it. So, like,
yeah,
if it's Damwon WE, LNG WE, I doubt you're doing Afrika WE, but you can. But, like, they just seem like the very natural underdog to pick.
Right.
And they seem like, we were talking, it was yesterday or 2 days ago, about how if you roster an underdog, you tend not to do that with your long stack because you're like, oh, they'll just get by. But, like, IG got smashed by
right.
LNG, so, like, right. You could probably go WE with your long stack too.
Yep, for sure. I think so. I mean, that has the potential to be, a very explosive series, because IG, tend to get crushed when they lose, but they're not afraid to go for plays, so they're not afraid to give up kills.
Yeah.
I think to your point, you're right. I think WE probably are the most popular team on the slate, just because I think a lot of people will feel like they're a definite, or not a definite, but a really strong upset case. I mean, I don't even really consider it an upset, but it's just pricing wise and everything it would be. So I think you're probably right. I mean, because you compare WE with these big favorites easily, they probably do end up being the highest owned team on the slate, which makes IG an intriguing option, because if IG show up, I mean, they're capable of crushing and winning a slate for people too. So playing both sides of that series is probably going to be fairly popular for people, and I definitely see why, because either side could certainly win, and either side could certainly put up some huge point totals if it goes their way.
Yeah, I think the only problem that you have with IG, is that WE you can play with anybody, and yep. IG, like, you can't play Damwon and IG. You can do it with Afrika, which is, like,
risky.
Who wants to do that? Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's definitely a risky proposition. Like, Afrika just, I mean, I can't talk myself into this Breon team, but maybe I should be because I can't talk myself into a Afrika either. So, I mean, if you're going to pick a side from that series, I'd rather take a shot on Breon, I think, just because they're so much cheaper, and you can pretty much open up a ton of salary in lineups by doing that. But, man, somebody's got to win, right? But neither team really makes me feel great, to be honest. So
yeah, that matchup, actually, the Damwon one has the lowest kill props, but it's mostly because they're going to destroy them. Like when they get all the kills, then the prop is pretty one-sided. But the next one is that Breon Afrika one, which that
I'm not into it, and we'll see tomorrow. The winner of that series will be in the winning lineup probably. But, I'm not. I don't know. I don't make enough lineups to make me want to play that series, and I don't want to have to watch that series because I want to watch the players either. So I don't know. That one's a hard one to call because both teams just look kind of crap so far, but somebody's got to win, and who knows, man? We've seen a lot of crazy things happen this season already, so it wouldn't shock me if that ends up being the highest killed series on the day or something weird like that.
It's weird because like that one is much closer than the Damwon Red Force, but like the benefit of rostering this Red Force team is that you have the direct leverage against Damwon, which is what everyone's playing. But playing either side of that, Afrika, Breon, like you don't get anything. You're just like you're targeting a game that nobody wants to play, and you may get the most points out of it. But when the three others outscore it, then it really doesn't matter. Like you'll get the low ownership, but you're going to get lower ownership with fewer points. So like it doesn't even matter.
Right. That's what we expect at least. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of staying away from that one when I build my lineups here, but who knows?
Any shot at a WE-IG game stack being the highest scoring? I mean, if Red Force, let's say they lose 2-1, I don't even want to give them a win, but if they lose 2-1, and that WE-IG one goes 2-1, I guess LNG could blow them out.
Right.
But, I don't know. That seems like, based on the other games on the slate, it's like possible. I don't play them, but like possible.
Right. It's definitely the most explosive series. So if it goes 2-1 and it's a slugfest in all three games, then a game stack could pay off. But I mean, typically what we end up seeing even in 2-1s is one team wins by a wide margin, then the other team wins by a wide margin, and then in the third game, one of the teams wins by a fairly wide margin. So far, we haven't seen a lot of series that are close enough in every single game to make it worth doing a game stack. Like if you do a 2-1 and the team that only wins one game might, just score they might get 10 combined kills in the two games they lose or something like that, and then it just ends up being not really worth it. And I think on this slate, we're looking at probably a 2-0 for Damwon and a 2-0 for LNG. So I'd rather just take a shot on picking the winner from WEIG and then pairing them with, pairing them with a team you think is going to win elsewhere rather than going full game stack, I think.
I think if you do game stack it, you could at least do like a Damwon team spot.
Yeah.
Like a 3-3-1.
That's not a bad option. That's always something that people can look at doing is one-offing their team slot, especially if you don't have enough salary to do, say, use the team of one of the teams you're using in your player stacks, because teams often score similar enough point totals as long as they win. So I wouldn't, it's not a bad thing to do a one-off, especially in the team slot usually.
I think it's a fairly popular FanDuel strategy because you need the third team. But...
Yep. Yeah, on FanDuel I would almost always look to, because you have to one-off somewhere, right? Like you said, I'd almost always look to one-off in the team slot.
Ugh. Now I'm like actually thinking about it. It seems like such a waste of money too. Who do you think ends up being the highest scoring team?
It's probably going to be
let's say
unless we get a sweep in IGWE, I think it ends up being LNG.
Okay.
Because I think it could be Damwon, but I think Damwon will be met with such little resistance potentially that they just kind of roll over NS. And they don't have to put up like 20 kill games to do it. They might just put up like mid to low teens game kill scores. But then LNG, might end up being the one that kind of pushed towards the 20 kill mark a little easier. Just this TT team just kind of looked like a team that would play in like solo queue on the game, like where there's no coordination or communication. It's just 5 people playing the game.
Right.
That's how they looked in their first series. So they might end up giving up more kills than NS, especially because I think TT are the worst team as well. I think we could see higher kills coming out of that LNG TT series than the Damwon NS. But the winner of that IGWE series definitely has potential to be the highest scoring team as well. But I think we're more likely to see a 2-1 in that series. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I think there's a few teams that could fight for that title. But I'm going to go with LNG. I think LNG might put up the most points, especially if they end up 2-1ing. It won't be the case, but if they sweep, I think they could end up with the highest point totals on the slate.
I haven't looked into it, but I'm assuming we haven't had a situation this year with a third game where the winner ends up with more than 60 or 80 fantasy points, meaning that they end up scoring more in the third game than the games not played bonus.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think that's happened. There was a weird game in the LCK Wednesday. I'm trying to look it up quick. I think it was Thursday. I think it was NS versus Sandbox, where Sandbox lost 2-1, but they scored 28 kills in game 2, and I think that was more than their 28 kills in game 2 were more than NS's kill totals combined in all 3 games. So we had a losing team outscore a winning team there, which was weird. But
that's wild.
I don't think we've seen the case where a team that 2-1s has put up, more points throughout the game they lost than they would have if they had swept. That the game's not played bonus really piles up, especially once you get that multiplier on like 3 or 4 players. So sweeps are always what you want to target. I mean, they're never guaranteed to happen, of course, but we always want to kind of focus on teams that are going to get a sweep because they're pretty much always going to outscore, or they're pretty much never going to outscore that game's not played bonus and loss.
Right. Yeah, like looking at it now, the top just total kills, like Sandbox had 4 of the top 5 guys.
Right.
That's wild.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
Oh, well. All right, if you guys keep enjoying these, please hit the like button below and feel free to subscribe for all the RotoWire videos. We are covering a ton of sports, as always, at RotoWire, so whatever you're looking for, we probably have it. If you want to try RotoWire out for free for 10 days, just go to rotowire.com/pod. That's POD. That gets you access to all of our League of Legends stats, as well as access to our subscriber Discord, where a lot of this conversation continues leading up to Slate. So, Ethan, thank you for that, and good luck on Sunday.
All right, man. You too.